This is False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler, staff writer, fanside.com. I'm joined today by a man who's not going to make you pay $1.50 to see him because he didn't pay Paradise. He's never going to pay Paradise unless he's going to put up a Runza parking lot. Cody Williams, content director, fanside.com. How the hell are you?
Hey Bubba, how you doing? No, I'm doing
Yeah.
good, man. It's a good day to be here. I'm feeling energized on a Thursday, not something that normally happens. So, feeling good, other than being blinded by the sun. But how you doing?
Not as good as you. I mean, a little banged up from last night on Buhler
Yeah.
Friday. The ATM at Joystick Game Bar didn't want me to take some cash out. So yeah, my Bank of America balance is like minus 825 plus 825 minus 825 plus 25. They charged me $3.25 to take $5 out to play some Galaga, and it wouldn't even let me do it. So I've been better, but I'm all right.
Look, man, Joystick, having been there, is a fine establishment. Not always the best run establishment is how I would go about it.
That's Edgewood for you, man. Like that's how that place
I mean,
goes.
fair enough. Fair enough. It doesn't
Yeah.
help that it's right next to church, which is one of the best bars I've ever been to.
My cousin came in from New York and he's like, best bar I've ever been to in my life. There's nothing like it.
It's, I mean, truly.
There's no other bar like it in Atlanta. And let's just leave it at that.
Probably not many in the South, and I'll leave it there.
It's a little bit of somewhere else in the southeastern United States, but yeah, obviously we false started here a little bit. We're gonna get back on track with some first and 15, and we're gonna come to you with a reading from Mord Manuel's manual, our reactions to the penultimate college football playoff rankings. I did playoff Goldilocks on Tuesday night. Got really good engagement. Had a lot
Mhm.
of so got some new subscribers, including Donald. Donald, appreciate the love. Thank you.
Shouts Donald
For,
Love. We love it,
yeah,
man.
we love it, dude. Yeah, he loves the analysis and stuff. We told you we're gonna give you a shout on the show, and yeah, we're halfway to 50, which basically means body paint and another 25.
Yeah, when you're 25, we're gonna do some body shots later. It's gonna be great.
I just want to fly. 25 years old. God rest your soul. But anyway, like
Oh,
25. Put your
I
arms
wasn't
around me.
expecting Sugar Ray references this morning.
We got to do that at jail at some point in the off season.
100%.
It's not first and 15, it's first and 1459.
That's yes, love it so much.
Oh my God, it's so good. But yeah, 25 teams for Mark McGrath and everything like that. I don't know where you differ in my opinion from what I had with playoff Goldilocks, but I hate that like South Carolina got screwed. Like they went
Yeah.
from having like a 20% chance of making it. They beat Clemson and now it's like zero point zero 0.04 to make it in now.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, like that point oh 0.04, I don't even know where that's coming from because I don't see the world where honestly any of these like any team behind Alabama gets in because they're all not
Yeah.
playing in a conference championship game. Like it feels like Alabama got shoot in there. And like, I understand, I was looking at the comment section before we, started recording from playoff Goldilocks, and there was an argument about, Alabama beat South Carolina. That's great. But if you're going to honor head to head, Alabama should be behind Oklahoma because Alabama lost by 21 to Oklahoma. Like, at a certain point in the season, when you have incongruent losses, head to heads start to matter less to me, at least in my estimation. Like, I think that when the thing I've been championing with South Carolina is they do not have a bad loss on the resume. You lost to LSU, you lost to Ole Miss, and you lost to Alabama. And I understand those head-to-heads are important, but at the same time, you have very similar resumes of quality wins, and you don't have two horrible losses, which both Alabama and Ole Miss have. That's I've been trying to preach this, and like I understand that you want to honor head to head, but I think head to heads matter a lot more when you're trying to figure out like the hierarchy of the rankings earlier in the season. When you get to this point in the season and you have all these losses piling up and you're trying to balance it, head to head needs to be a factor, but not the only factor.
Precisely. On the Blog and Dirty podcast yesterday, I had Adam Patrick of the Viking Age. The guy's really funny. Like
Oh
he,
yeah, he is.
first time I've ever talked to him in person, it was like almost as good of rapport as you and I. But like it was cool. We kind of ended the show doing guys, remember and dudes, and we talked about Ray Buchanan and not the defensive back that cost the Falcons the Super Bowl '98. But we got on the concept of Adam's like, dude, miss curfew.
To Miss Kirby, I don't know what to tell you, man.
But we were talking about the concept of like the circle of suck. And it's like, the Lions only lost this to the Buccaneers, who lost to the Falcons, who whatever it is. Like if you were to honor head to head, you could basically do the circle of suck in the SEC. It's like what? Vanderbilt beat Alabama, Texas beat Vanderbilt, Georgia beat Texas, and Alabama beat Georgia. So like the head to
Yeah,
head at some point, it can't be the only thing. It can't be, it will impact the rankings though. And the other thing that I was looking at of great intrigue, besides the big thing, which we'll talk about here, which is the big debate about SMU, Clemson, and
yeah,
Alabama, I guess Miami, like they're not going to punish Georgia really that much if they lose because
yeah.
they're going to want to avoid them playing Tennessee at home and they're going to want to avoid Indiana playing at Ohio State. So like even if Georgia lost, they're still going to probably be like the 7th seed
Oh
and Penn
yeah,
State would be 8 in that situation. So it's like Penn State would go behind Georgia, and Ohio State would move up because
yeah.
there's not going to be a whole lot of movement there. Indiana's pretty much in at 10 no matter what. And then it comes down to like, if SMU loses, do they get over Alabama at 11? And that's so difficult. I go back and forth either way. They're going to probably put Alabama in, but that may be the closest debate they've probably ever had in this.
No, I mean, I don't know. You look at last year with Florida State and Alabama, like
Yeah.
it's definitely like it's two in a row basically. But I mean, it is an interesting debate. I think I come down on the SMU side of things because like I think if you make your conference championship game, that I don't care if you're in a lesser league, like that's still more valuable to me, especially a team that went undefeated in its conference and the opposition to that is Alabama with three losses in conference. So like I value that a little bit more. And like the fact that you're adding an extra data point shouldn't hurt you. And like Rhett Lashley's doing a good job of campaigning for this right now. Rhett Lashley, I believe, I can't remember what show he was on, but he recently was on some program and he basically said, if my team goes out there and we forfeit on Saturday, we're going to be in the college football playoff because we're not going to take a loss like on the field. So like what's the incentive of trying to play in these conference championship games? And like I think that it's going to be interesting to see what precedent the college football playoff selection committee sets with this because like if you set the precedent that basically only the SEC and Big Ten championships matter, that's going to be a really problematic thing that's going to lead to more not I'm not even realignment, I don't think. More changes with the playoff and the playoff format because like the ACC and the Big 12 aren't going to stand for that.
No, they're not. And yeah, I would venture to guess. I think it's like SMU is like a 67.5% chance of getting in with FPI and Alabama's like 64-1.
Hmm.
So there's like a 3% difference, and maybe that could make all the difference. Look, I understand Alabama's got some impressive wins, but
Yes.
I also understand they've got a new head coach in a very tough league, but the same thing applies with Kurt Cignetti at Indiana, and they went 11-1 and they handled business and they didn't play with a lot of variance. They went out there and they scored a lot of points over a lot of really bad teams, but beat the absolute snot out of them. I almost swore there, but yeah. So
It's every time we're saying someone's beating the snot out of someone that we want to swear.
I know it's what happens, it just comes out of you like snot apparently. But
Yeah.
also with SMU though, like this is a new league. They're moving up from the
Mhm.
group of five to the power four. They're playing a league that doesn't geographically make sense for them. They're right in the middle of it. They're in Dallas, Texas. It's a small private school. This is a program that was dead like 40 years ago. They got killed
Legitimately.
because, yeah, it
Yeah.
got killed because of Trans Ams and envelopes and handshakes and greed and things that would be totally acceptable now and are.
Yeah, I mean, just a really, they were just ahead of the times.
I mean, conservative place like Dallas, Texas, and as Southern Methodist University, way ahead of the curve. Didn't
Absolutely.
you know? Um, the Arizona State podcast says my mom invented girl dinner. She created girl dinner. SMU invented NIL.
That's right. Yeah. They were the NIL before it was passe.
Any other thoughts about the playoff rankings in the penultimate before we see what happens on Saturday and the rankings on Sunday? Any other last lingering thoughts?
I I don't agree with Miami only dropping to 12. I don't agree with Miami being in like this fringe playoff conversation, quite frankly. Like people Alabama fans who are arguing against SMU getting in if SMU were to lose in the ACC Championship game, they're like, well, look at the schedule. You didn't have to play Miami or Clemson. Okay, Miami didn't have to play Clemson or SMU. So how are Miami fans like justifying this if you're going to disparage SMU for that same thing? And you lost more games than SMU doing this. You didn't, you, I'm like, Miami's best win to this day is still beating Florida. That's like their best win. And like, that's not going to cut it for me. Like I don't think Miami has the resume to be a two-loss team that even has a conversation to get into this playoff.
I mean, beating Florida, that's what Georgia's fifth best win, maybe.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's ridiculous here. I guess the other thing that maybe ruffled some feathers here, I got some hate mail about this from a guy from his joint wife's account saying "Go Bucks." I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna say your name, but you're gonna when you go to the bathroom, it sounds feminine. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, I was like, who's insulting me here? But like, the point is, I don't like the fact that Ohio State's ahead of Tennessee because they did not take care of business in conference championship where Tennessee did. So basically, what I'm getting to is like they're at the cutoff line about the 8-9 range
Mhm.
where they're probably going to play each other. It's going to be very close.
Yeah.
Why should you be rewarding Ohio State with a home playoff game versus Tennessee, who I think's been a little bit more consistent? Honestly, I don't know if they're better, but like I don't think that they should be punished as severely for that as Ohio State's being rewarded.
So I'll push back slightly, but like I think it's just really splitting hairs. And I think that's why it's an easy thing like for someone to call you out on your opinion. But like I guess my pushback would be when you start to compare the resumes of Ohio State and Tennessee, they're honestly pretty similar.
Yeah,
Like you lost to the best team on your schedule. Tennessee went and lost to Georgia, obviously,
Georgia, yeah.
whereas Ohio State went and lost to Oregon. So like those two things did happen. Those are two, quality losses that you have. You also have two non-quality losses. Tennessee lost at Arkansas. Ohio State lost at home to Michigan. Maybe you use that losing at home as the data point that separates Tennessee and Ohio State. But either way, they both have a bad loss. But then you both have other quality wins on your schedule. You beat Alabama if you're Tennessee. You beat Penn State if you're Ohio State. So like the fact that you were able to do those things, like those resumes really start to go in there. And then the rest of the schedule really isn't a whole lot to write home about, quite frankly, in the grand scheme of things when you compare it to others in the conference. So like I do think that their resumes are pretty similar. And I think I on it like if I'm putting my cynic hat on, Ohio State is ahead of Tennessee because they want to give Ohio State the home game, and that they're just trying to make the bigger players in this happy.
Yeah, they're going to want to make Gus Johnson really jealous and not call him this game.
Absolutely.
Dude, I cannot wait to go to like the 506 and see like who's the announcer pairings for these playoff games.
Oh my God, yes.
Uh,
You remember I was telling you on I know you weren't watching the Ohio State Michigan game with sound on and listening to Gus, but he had the moment where he like lost his voice. Danny Kelly of The Ringer described it as it sounded like before he made the call, he accidentally sucked in the dust from a beignet at Lamont Bakery, and now I can't unhear that because he just like it sounds like he lost all of the air in his lungs. He's trying to yell about a Jack Sawyer interception.
Beignet is one of those words like colander or like I am not confident what the second letter is.
No, can't spell it at all. Not even close. We're not transcribing this. I can tell you that right now.
Beignet. Benyeh. That's
Absolutely.
beignet. It's Benyay. There we go. That's how you, that's
Benyay.
if it's yey, it's beignet. Yeah.
Ben, yeah.
Yay. Okay, that was stupid, but let's move on to something a little bit dumber with playoffs. You kidding me?
Yeah.
This is your idea. This is going to be a lot of fun. And we're probably going to do this again between the playoff rankings and the games themselves. So we're going to take every team that's in the playoff field right now and we're going to power rank them 12 to 1 on chances that we think they could win a national title. So based on where they're in the bracket with this. So let's start. Who do you have at 12? Who has no chance?
Dude, it's Boise State. And like I love Ashton Genty. I think he's great. I think Ashton Genty is going to have success in some of these playoff games. You know who I don't trust? I still don't trust Maddox Maxon. You know who I trust even less? The entirety of the Boise State defense. Like I just don't think when you get this team I think they had one good shot in the chamber, and that was what they gave Oregon. And like, I'm sure people are going to give that Oregon game some credence and say, well, Boise State played them to within a field goal. They could definitely win a playoff game and go on a run here. I think that was their best shot. And the dirty secret about Boise State, they've been playing a lot worse over the past like month and a half. So like, I don't see the team that we saw earlier in the season, and I don't see a team that can really do make a whole lot of noise in this playoff.
So they had to be the projected 4 seed. So you're probably looking at them in, I think the Fiesta Bowl is probably what that would
Yeah.
be. And they would host, or they would be the home team, if you will, versus the winner of Arizona State at Penn State for the 5-12. So again,
Mhm.
you're sitting there thinking that like Penn State would beat them and Arizona State would probably beat them too.
Yeah, I like at a certain point when you're talking about like confidence in winning a national championship, like it really comes down to the fact like Boise State doesn't recruit the same level of dudes top to bottom that these power programs do. And like that's unfortunate that we're at that point with the G5, but it's the reality.
I don't actually have them 12th. I have them coming up in a little bit.
Okay.
At number 12, hate to say it, it's Indiana. Indiana's got no
Okay.
shot because they're probably going to be the 10 and they're going to have to go play. You'd have to play what would be Georgia in Athens,
Yeah.
and then you'd have to play at Texas
I'm gonna tell
versus
you, they're not
Texas.
playing after they play in Athens. I'm sorry. They're just done
I'm I think
there.
Indiana is really good. I just think their pathway is just the most
Yeah.
brutal because it's like you got to play seven, then you got to play two, then you got to play somebody else, and then you got to play one, and then it's just it's I don't with how I've seen Indiana look versus like the upper crust of the Big Ten, I have my concerns. And if you're dealing with the upper crust of the SEC, that could be Mufasa getting trampled.
No, so I have Indiana coming up in a little bit. I actually don't have them at 11 either. But like I think that 10 through 12 are pretty interchangeable and like it seems like you took like path a little more into it. This is very much vibes based and like what I think of these teams more so than path, but like I have Arizona State at 11. And like I think that Kenny Dillingham is one of the like I would venture to say maybe a top five coach in this current playoff field. Like the fact that he has this Arizona State team in the playoff field currently projected, like that's a testament to what a damn good coach he is. A lot of talented players on that team, like Cam Scattaboo, Sam Levitt's playing phenomenally. Was previously at Michigan State, I believe. So like he's he has P4 pedigree that before he came to Arizona State. So like there's a lot of pieces to like, but like I just think that the high end talent level that you're going to need to win 4 games in the college football playoff, I don't quite see that with Arizona State because as like we enjoy the Big 12, we love how crazy and hectic that league is, but like at the same time, I think we're both very cognizant of the fact that it is slightly lesser than the top 2 leagues, which would be the SEC and the Big 10.
I don't have Arizona at 11. I've got them a little bit better chances than you think. But I would say probably 9 through 12 is about the same 4 teams. Is probably what I would
Okay.
say. So
And that's
at
probably fair looking at my
yeah,
9 as well.
yeah, at 11 I have SMU
Okay.
because even though they probably would get the bye, they would be the 3. I think the game that they're going to be playing versus Clemson is going to be it's extremely high stakes. It's probably the most high stakes game beyond the Big 12, the Mountain West Championship.
Yeah.
So you're looking at them like if it's out of hand in like the Big Ten or the SEC, like they'll pack it in to save it, for next week a little bit. Like
Mhm.
I think that's potentially within play in some capacities, but like you get in there and yeah, you may have like a buy or something like that, but I think it's going to take a lot out of them. And even though they are power forward, they were group of 5 a year ago. I
Mhm.
kind of wonder if they have the resources. And then I think you'd play like the 6 seed. So you would play with the winner of 6-11, which I believe would be Notre Dame, Alabama. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, so I I have SMU coming. I do not have them at 10 either, but again, I said who I have at 9. So like they're at 9 for me. And
Yes.
when I get to SMU, I'll talk about them. I have Indiana at 10. Kind of the same things you mentioned. Like we saw what they did against the upper crust of the Big Ten, and it wasn't as pretty as everything else we saw from them. And again, it comes back to what I was saying about Boise, kind of comes back to what I was saying against Arizona State. When you get into these games, at a certain point, the level of dude you have on the roster matters. And I also think the other thing, which is why I have SMU at 9, kind of at the top of this group, is when I look at Indiana, Arizona State, and Boise State to some degree, but Boise State's talent level is so much lower because they do have a trump card, but SMU at least has a trump card. I think Kevin Jennings is special. I think Kevin
Yes.
Jennings is the type of player who, with his arm and legs, can change a game. Ashton Genty can do the same, but SMU has better players around him than Boise does Ashton Genty. So, like, I think that having that trump card is something that I keep looking at in terms of who can win a national title because I look at like the things that these teams have and I say, okay, what can an opposing team actually do to stop this? And like Indiana as a team, great coach, their trump card, if you had to peg it down, would probably be Kurt Cignetti. The problem with that is Kurt Cignetti's not lacing them up and putting on the pads.
No, no, he's not. So my 10's Boise State and my 9's Arizona State. And here's kind of my
Yeah.
methodology here. So you'd have Boise at the 4, and you'd have Arizona State at the 10, or at the 12, and they'd be playing Penn State. And I don't trust James Franklin at all. I have a feeling that with those two teams, again, Arizona State's has a little more talent because they are, I mean, well, they weren't really most safe, but maybe big power four versus group of five. I still think that that matters in some capacity, but I'm like, Arizona State's playing like with a lot of confidence right now. It's kind of
Mhm.
like the '03 Marlins. Like we didn't know we could win a World Series until we did. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
it's the same sort of thing where like if you're Arizona State and you beat Penn State and then you beat Boise and then you basically go face a team that used to play all the time in the Pac-12 in Oregon, who I think is going to be tight. And at
Mhm.
that point, you're on the other side of the bracket from like all the SEC teams. You can have that false hope, and you could basically, if you get a little bit of chaos there, and like a Georgia or a Texas or a Tennessee falls down, like maybe you could do it. I'm saying that I'm talking like a fraction of a percent, maybe, but
Yeah.
like
I mean, they're in the
that.
bottom of third of your rankings for a reason. Yeah, 100%.
I'm just saying, like from those two teams, like it's possible they could win multiple playoff games.
So I guess where I'm coming down is in college, I think one of the things that's really coloring my perception with particularly these bottom four teams is I don't think like it's impossible that they win a playoff game or even multiple playoff games. But when it comes to winning three or four to win a college football playoff, I think like you run into the TCU problem. TCU won
Yeah,
a playoff game. TCU got to the national championship game, but you got to a certain point where you couldn't overcome everything that like the talent discrepancy. You couldn't overcome this, that, and the other. And so like when I look at these four teams, I don't see them going through now a longer playoff run and being able to do that multiple times to win a national championship.
I'm right there with you. So I would say 8 through 6 are like the next kind of group of teams. They can win multiple playoff games, but at the end of the day, I don't think they can win a national title for various reasons. So at 8, I have Penn State.
I also have Penn State at 8. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, dude. You expect James Franklin to win multiple big games in a row. Like, dude's not won multiple big games in his tenure at Penn State, much less multiple games in a row.
It's funny with Penn State, like they're seeded 5. It's
Mhm.
mathematically impossible for them to be 5 because they're either going to be 2 or 1 if they win the Big Ten, or they're going to be like 7 or 8 if they lose the Big Ten, and they will
Yeah.
drop behind Georgia and Ohio State. It'll be like right there with Tennessee and Indiana, but they didn't think they put Indiana, but doesn't matter. Who cares? But
No, they
like
didn't.
it's, I don't know if they'd win. That's the big one that's gonna get your brain in a Dan Wetzel pretzel. You're like, are they favored or not? I don't know. Is this an underdog? James Franklin is 1-11 in games where he's not favored.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, the one thing that does stand out to me if I'm like if you're looking at Penn State and you're trying to be optimistic about Penn State, going back to the Trump card conversation, that defense is legit, man.
Yeah,
Like they help, like the offense let them down against Ohio State. The defense did not. The defense held Ohio State to 20 points, which is not an easy feat. Like there's been two defenses that have done that. It's been Michigan and Penn State, and those are two very talent-laden, very good defenses. So like you could possibly go on a run, but again, to the point of can they win a national championship? Not quite there.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Abdul Carter's a top 10 pick.
Yeah, oh God, yeah, dude.
Uh,
I would do unspeakable things to have him opposite Micah Parsons on the Cowboys defensive front.
in the words of their the mammal, Stick City. It's a place. LeVar Arrington, all about that.
100%.
And I don't know if this next guy at number 7 is double fisting Long Island's like LeVar, but at number 7, I've got Alabama.
Same man. I got Alabama at number 7. I think that when it comes to Bama, to me, it still comes down to the variance that I've
Hmm.
been talking about with this team for months and months. And like, I know like if Alabama played 4 games at the high end of Alabama, they can win a national championship. The talent's there. Jalen Milroe is a trump card. There's no question about it. We haven't seen Alabama play 4 games at their highest level consistently. Their record bears that out. 1 out of 4 games they lost. That's what, they had a 75% winning percentage this year. I think that is fully indicative of what this Alabama team is because at their worst, if you can lose by 21 to Oklahoma, your worst is pretty damn bad.
I don't know if they're going to lose to anybody we have behind them, but they could definitely lose to everybody ahead of them. Like,
Exactly.
but they could also beat everybody else on here, and that's the variance is exactly what that is. Kalen DeBoer might be better equipped to handle this, probably with a cooler demeanor than other people. But again, the variance of Jalen Milroe, the defensive backfield, it's all the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just don't trust Alabama to win 4 games in a row.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's like again, we're having the national champion conversation, not the can you win playoff games conversation. You know what I mean? So like
Mhm.
4 games in a row is what it's going to take for Alabama. They're not going to be a top 4 seed. So do you trust that? We don't.
Who do you have at 6?
At 6, I have Notre Dame. Again, a team that I don't totally trust. Like I understand that since Northern Illinois lost, I have sung Notre Dame's praises, and I think they deserve it. Having said that, the USC game got me a little worried because it showed a troubling trend that I think has kind of gone under talked about, under analyzed, I guess is probably the best way to say it. Losing Morrison at corner hasn't been something that they faced a team that can really test. USC, for all their faults, can still throw the ball, still has dudes on the outside. They hung 35 on them. Now USC's defense was like, hey, go ahead and score 50 on us. That does, you can still win the game. There's going to be a lot of defenses better than USC that can move the ball in the exact same way that USC can, but can also stop Notre Dame's offense, which Riley Leonard's a good player. Jeremiah Love's a great player. Like, I like this offense, but it is very one-dimensional. Like, if you ask Riley Leonard to drop back and throw it a lot, that's how you lost to Northern Illinois. So you can definitely lose to a playoff team.
For sure. I had them coming up in a little bit. My thing with Notre Dame is like, I think they're the only team that's in the playoff that there's still some unknown about them. They've kind of been doing their own thing. They haven't played like a really tough schedule. They've played some good teams, but there's also been a lot of rivalries that are just inflated, just wins. Like
Yeah,
the
100%.
Navy, the
Getting the
Navy of it
dubs.
all, get the dubs and everything like that. Like, how much can you really learn about them beating Navy and Army like that? There's nothing. It's not
Yeah.
a lot. But like, yeah, I'll talk about Notre Dame here in a little bit. At 6, I've got Tennessee. Tennessee is
Okay.
very close. I don't think the Vols can win a national championship because of 2 reasons. I don't trust Nico Iamaleava to play 4 really good games in a row, which would be required. More importantly, besides the fact that I think Tim Banks might be a potential head coach out there, he might actually win
Right.
he might actually win the Frank Pearls. Also, did you see Dirk Cutter's the OC at Boise? Did not know that. I did not know that.
So someone brought that to my attention. I believe it might have been Trevor Sickma at PFF. I think he brought it up because he's a Bucks guy, obviously, and so he's got some fond feelings for Dirk Cutter from the NFC South. So like, I think that I mean, hell yeah, Dirk, go get your bag in Boise, bro. I mean, Dirk Cutter in Idaho just seems like a perfect place, quite frankly.
I mean, I think he went to Idaho State. I think that's it. And he also coached at Boise before like
Yeah.
Dan Hawkins and Chris Peterson and them. So he was Boise before it was Boise. He invented Boise. He's
He put that blue turf down with his bare hands.
lost a lot of good men that day.
Yeah, oh yeah, man.
He played for the Yankees. Shot and shooter. We're combining movies. It's fine. But yeah, the other big thing with Tennessee for me is I think, and I hate to say it, or maybe I don't really care, but like I think multiple games in a row scheming up against Josh Heupel is going to make him look uh like a clown. Like they're going to look at his offense, they're going to know exactly what to do to shut it down. And
Yeah.
I think that like schematically, I think somebody is going to figure him out pretty quickly. Like look at Georgia. Georgia always figures him out.
Yeah. I was gonna say watch the second half of the Georgia film and like you'll figure out how to do it. But like I have Tennessee at 5. So I'm like right, Notre Dame, honestly, Notre Dame and Tennessee pretty interchangeable to me, this 5 and 6 spot, because I think that I think I have Tennessee a little bit higher because I still believe in Nico's potential. Like, I'm not sure he's there fully there yet, but like the idea of him getting there is not something that I can rule out necessarily. Like, if he just made, like, he's been improving over the past few weeks of the regular season. If he makes another leap going into the playoff, like, that's entirely possible. Again, not saying it's likely, but it's possible. But you do have this Tennessee defense, which I do have a lot of respect for. So, like, that's a trump card. Dylan Sampson, you're going to be able to rely on the run game, even if Nico doesn't take another step forward. So, like, there are more paths to me, I think, for Tennessee winning just because, like, I think I know who Tennessee is. I still don't, like, I'm with you. I don't necessarily think, I think the top four are the teams that I think can actually win a national championship, and everyone else, you're just kind of making case and splitting hairs. But, like, Tennessee's right on the fringe of that because I know who Tennessee is and the little room for upside when it comes to Nico, that's where I fall down with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of in the same sort of thing. They're right in the fringe. Maybe they
Yeah.
could, but I'm not going to count on it. At five, I think the worst team that can win a national title is Ohio State for me.
Okay.
The reason I've got them down is I just think the vibes are terrible. Like right now,
Yeah.
they had a really rough
Yeah.
national signing day. Our colleague Chris Landers was falling to pieces.
It was not, shouts to, we'll pour one out for Chris later because damn.
You were like Caleb Downs, come on down to Georgia, and he sends you the Michael Clark duck, and don't you put that hate on me. um,
Oh God.
but I just feel that like so you'd have to probably play Tennessee in the first round. That's a tough matchup. And then at like 8, 9, then you'd probably go play one. You'd probably play Oregon again. That could get in your head, or you're playing Texas. I feel like the path's challenging, but you probably have the best roster of anybody in the
Mhm.
playoff right now. You have a lot of really good coaches. I just think there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and in this situation, that gets the best of Ryan Day. And if I will say, if they lose in the first round of the playoff, he might be fired.
Yeah, oh, definitely. If they don't win a playoff game, he's cooked, dude. There's after losing to Michigan for the fourth time, there's no shot. I have Ohio State at four, and I still think Ohio State can win a national championship. There's no question about it. I mean, like I said, I think this top four is who I like. I don't have a lot of faith in Notre Dame being able to win a national championship, which I think is where we differ. But Ohio State's the worst team that I think can win a national championship. I think it's a marriage of two things why they're at four. One, the point you just made. This is one of the most talented rosters in the playoff. There's no question about it. Having said that, one of the things that I really realized looking at the majority of these teams, particularly like the top half teams, you're talking about elite defenses. And Ohio State's going to be in the playoff, and I understand they're garnering experience right now, but without two starting offensive linemen. That's a problem when you're getting against elite level defenses. You're going to have that exploited consistently. So like I just worry matchup wise, like if you put them up against the Texas, if you put them up against the Georgia, if you put them up against Oregon now, how is that really going to turn out? Because we saw Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant really cause them a lot of problems. And part of that was Chip Kelly. And to your point, the cooks in the kitchen aspect of it. Because Chip Kelly was like, I'm just going to run the ball up the middle, halfback dive constantly. And it's like, well, you're running at the two best players on Michigan's roster consistently with your backup center blocking them. Like, that's probably not going to work out. But I do think other defensive lines can exploit that.
I'm right there with you. I would say like based on the seating right here, at four, I have Notre Dame. That was where I've got
Okay.
them. And I feel that like Notre Dame being seated six, like, yeah, people are like, oh, you got screwed playing Alabama. Well, Alabama has so much variance. Like, Notre Dame could beat them. I'm not ruling that
There's
out.
also no guarantee that Alabama is going to be the 11th seed.
It
Like,
could be
if,
it
yeah,
could be SMU. It could be Miami. It could be Arizona State if Clemson. No, it wouldn't be Arizona State. It could be, I don't know. The point is like the 6-11 looks pretty nice, and then you go play the three. And at that
yeah,
point, I still think Notre Dame is better than the three. And then you get to the point where like then you got to play like Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Penn State, whoever's like the second best Power Two champion. Maybe you get a little bit pushed around there, but like the first couple of games there, it works in Notre Dame's favor a little bit more than I think people realize. Like, yeah, they're gonna lose. They could lose to Alabama 41-10 and make me look really stupid. But that's kind of where I feel I'm at with Notre Dame. They've got probably the second longest winning streak in the country behind
Oregon.
what Oregon, yeah, like considered third with SMU. So And at three, I have Oregon. That's who I've got at three.
Okay, I have Georgia at three. And Georgia to me comes down kind of as like the better version of Alabama in terms of variance. We've seen quite a bit of variance when it comes to Georgia this year. Like it's hard for me to erase that first half against Alabama. It's hard for me to erase that first half or the entire game against Kentucky. It's hard for me to erase the first half against Mississippi State. Like those data points absolutely happened where this Georgia team did not look dominant. At the same time, we have the Texas game, the regular season meeting between those two teams, where Georgia looked like world beaters. We have I mean, we also have the Georgia Tech data point where Georgia Tech pushed them to 8 overtime. So, like, there's just a lot of variance with this team. I do think Carson Beck has played a lot better down the stretch over the past 3 to 4 weeks. Like, that's a big thing working in Georgia's favor. That's why I have them at three. That's why I have them ahead of Ohio State. But I think the big thing for me is I think the variance is even more so in the defense. We've seen this
Yeah.
defense, like, at their best, they're otherworldly, which you don't like. I mean, that's what you expect from Georgia with the talent acquisition business that Kirby Smart runs. But at the same time, like when I look at Georgia, that defense hasn't played up to his potential quite as often as I would like. And so like I trust them just a little bit less than I do the top two teams.
Look, just because I'm wearing a red shirt doesn't mean it's a Georgia shirt. It's Lando Calrissian shirt. I actually bought that in front of you in Orlando the time we met and got COVID from you.
100%.
Yeah, Disney Springs shout out. That place is awesome. I want to go back. I realize
Oh,
I have
100. Absolutely, dude. Forget Disney
well,
World. Just take me to Disney Springs.
see the itinerary base player.
That's right.
But okay, so I've got Georgia at two, and I've got Oregon at three, which obviously means I have Texas at one. So
Yeah.
what it comes down to with Oregon is I think that they probably are the best team in the country. It's been really quiet. No one's really talking a lot about them. It's just kind of been like good, low key, boring. They've handled business versus the teams they needed to. You know, you beat up on Ohio State, you beat up on Illinois, you did pretty good. You finally beat Washington. That's a huge step for Dan
Oh, yeah.
Lanning. They've got a lot of talent there. They could basically play up with any SEC team. There's two concerns I have. One, you haven't lost yet. Everybody else has.
Yeah.
Everybody else, the coach can use that as motivating factor to just dig a little bit deeper. Oregon, like Michigan didn't have to do that last year, but Michigan had those losses. They had that Fiesta Bowl loss to TCU. They had the Orange Bowl loss to Georgia. Like they could dig back and get there. The other thing is, I hate to say it, I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be broken in half if he goes up against an SEC defense. He only throws to his left. He's 24. He's maybe 6 feet tall. It's just a different caliber athlete. If you're going up against James Pierce Jr., you're going up against Jalen Walker, you're going up against anything Kwiatkowski's got cooking up there with Texas. I'm a little concerned. So that's where I've got there. Georgia, I'm right there with you with the high variance stuff. If Beck plays well, they can win a national title. But more importantly, the defense needs to play like it did versus Tennessee the second half and not like Alabama.
Correct, 100%. And so I have Oregon at two and Texas at one. So I think we see these three teams kind of in the same bucket. Like frankly, like of the national championship contenders that we have, like you have Notre Dame and Ohio State kind of in that tier two, and then we have I feel like these three are in tier one for me.
Yes.
And but with Oregon, I definitely have the same similar like minor concerns with you. Like I don't think, and I again, we know what a premier Bo Nix hater I am. I think Dylan Gabriel is a severe drop off from Bo Nix. I still can't get that out of my head that like he does less individually than Bo Nix did, which considering all the criticisms I have of Bo Nix, that's not very good. Like that's not a very kind thing to say about Dylan Gabriel. But like you also like you look at this team, and I think that Oregon feels like, and this is very vibes based, not like deep analysis, but they feel like the team that is breaking through, not all the way broke through, if that makes sense. Like it
Yeah.
feels like, especially you look at what happened on signing day, where Oregon was flipping dudes left and right, getting two five-star wide receivers, like all the things that Dan Lanning was able to do, they're building something and they're building something sustainable. But I don't think it's quite all the way there yet. I think there are enough pieces on this team to where a team like Wisconsin, who is not that good, can shut down this offense. And your defense is still, you're going to be able to rely on that, especially with Dan Lanning running the controls. But at the end of the day, like, if your offense can be shut down like that, and that's not the only time we've seen that happen either. We saw it happen early in the season against Idaho, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, Idaho or
Mhm.
Idaho State. It
Yeah.
was Idaho. It was the Vandals. I remember that. And then like that defense was pushed by Boise State. Like we've seen this team show like some signs of warts. And granted, to their credit, they have survived it all. They're 12-0. They're going into the Big Ten championship game. There's not a guarantee they win that. I know we don't trust Penn State in James Franklin big games, but like you talk about pass rushers that can really affect him. How about Abdul Carter, a dude who's 6'4", 259 pounds, but runs like he's Xavier Worthy out there. Like, dude can get in your ass real quick. So like, don't really love that for Dylan Gabriel too much. But then
Yeah.
Texas, when it comes down to Texas for me, I think two things stand out. One, I think this is the best defense in the country. I think that this defense is the trump card. Like you look at every matchup they played, like even in the Georgia game, as the more I dug into like the regular season matchup between Georgia and Texas, so much just broke Georgia's way. And that's not to discredit because they took advantage of it. But they had one scoring drive that was over 35 yards. So much of it was Texas shooting itself in the foot consistently. And I think that Sark has done a really low key genius thing with starting to bring in Arch in these sub packages because A, it gives you something you don't have with Quinn Ewers in terms of the mobility, but also Arch, they trust Arch as a passer. You don't start him in games when Quinn Ewers was hurt if you don't trust him as a passer. So it's like you can keep the defense on its heels when Arch comes in there. But the other part about that is when Arch comes in that game, I don't think it's a coincidence that we saw Quinn Ewers have the best drive of the game against Texas A&M. The drive after Arch scored that opening touchdown, it pushes Quinn Ewers to be better. I think that's low key a genius coaching move. And so like if you can raise the floor of that offense, which speaking of raising the floor, Quintravion Wisner or Wisner, however you say that last name, he's averaging over 160 yards rushing over his last two games. If they found a running game, this Texas offense becomes a lot more dangerous. When you combine that with the defense, this Texas team is real dangerous.
I think it was what CJ Baxter is the running back that got hurt. It was like
Yeah,
who's going to be it? It's become Wisner, I think, is the guy
yeah.
that they
They
leaned
tried with
on.
Jaden Blue for like a lot of the
Yeah.
season, and it never took.
Yeah, Trey Wisner seems to be like the guy who's been finding it. So got an Oregon thought, and then I got to finish up with Texas, then we can move on. So first off, I know you're essentially in Broncos country watching Bo Nix. The pass he had in that touchdown is probably that was
The
one of
best
the
throw
best
I've ever
throws.
seen from him.
I know, and I would say Bo Nix was playing for Oregon. They would be the number one favorite to win the national title
Oh
going their
yeah,
way.
100%.
He's been really good with the Broncos. I had a feeling that like if I didn't think he was going to bust, I didn't think his ceiling was that high, and coaching matters, and he seems to take to it very well. Also, I think the fact that your adopted brother's a future first round pick,
Yeah,
he's
no, I mean, and like, look, Sean Payton is an ass, but he's a damn good football coach too.
he's a damn good ass.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of with that with Oregon. With Texas, it really, I mean, I think the thing is Georgia just has more variance.
Yeah.
Texas can play a little tight too. We've seen that
Mhm.
before. In my opinion, I think whoever wins the SEC championship is going to win the national championship because they'll be the two seed and they'll have a chip on their shoulder. And well, maybe if Penn State beats Oregon and Texas beats Georgia, the Texas is maybe one, but like
Yeah.
it's that's kind of where I got it with 2-1 there with Georgia and Texas. It's whoever wins that game's probably is going to be really battle tested and ready to go, and they're going to be playing with a lot of confidence that I don't think anybody can shake.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, I think that whoever wins the SEC is going to be at least my mental favorite to win the national championship. Whether or not it happens, who knows? I mean, like, the closer we get to it, the more I realize how excited I am for the 12 team playoff.
Me too, man. And speaking of mental workouts, let's break my brain, dude. Let's do it. Let's just break it. I don't know. Okay, let's do this. I might actually collapse in real time, and we may have to put like no, Bueller didn't die like across the screen. Resuscitation, please resuscitate him.
Okay, so I have one scenario, but it's basically all the chaos that could possibly happen that I could cook up in my brain to try and break yours.
Okay, let's
And I
go.
just want to see where you see teams and a little bit who gets in. All right, we'll start in the SEC championship game. Georgia beats Texas again by 15 points.
Okay,
So double digit win, double two possession win. Penn State beats Oregon, close one. Clemson beats SMU by 4 points. Late touchdown to take the lead. Arizona State beats Iowa State, so we're holding serve in the Big 12. We're not going to add any more chaos in the Big 12 because I don't think it really matters in the Big 12 at this point. UNLV beats Boise State by 2, but Haj Malik Williams gets hurt and is going to miss the college football playoff. Meanwhile, in the American, Army beats Tulane by 21. Give me the seeding.
Oh my God. Okay. Your number one seed is going to be your number one seed's going to be Penn State. I'm so mad.
I know.
Your two seed is going to be Georgia.
Mhm.
Your three, your three seed's going to be Arizona State.
Yeah, baby. Forks up.
Forks up, dude. Georgia versus Arizona State, house divided. Let's go, man. Your four, your four in that situation. God, your four is Clemson.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah,
it is.
that's your four is Clemson. So your five would be Oregon. That's pretty easy.
Mhm.
Your six would be Notre Dame. That's pretty easy.
Mhm.
Your seven. I gotta look at this. I gotta look at this stupid sheet. Like, just what even is so. Okay, Georgia. No, Penn State one, Georgia two, Arizona State three, Clemson four. Your five would be Oregon, six Notre Dame, seven would probably be Ohio State,
Mhm.
eight Tennessee, nine Indiana.
Where's Texas in this? You haven't said
Where
Texas.
is Texas? Yeah, hold on. What am I doing? Yeah, Texas goes. Texas would be Texas, I think would be seven. I think that's where
Okay.
they would go because they're okay. First five at large, five would be Oregon, six would be Notre Dame, seven would be Texas,
Okay.
eight Ohio State, nine Tennessee, 10 Indiana. What was the score of SMU Clemson? Four.
SMU lost by 4.
SMU lost by four. Give me the ponies at 11 and give me UNLV at 12. No, not UNLV
Okay.
at 12. Give me Army at 12. Give me Army at 12. There we go.
Yeah, because I think like the thing, if UNLV beats Boise and it's close, and I threw in the Haj Malik Williams thing in there because we have history of quarterback injury precedent in the college football playoff and affecting it. So, but like I do think like we might be underrating the idea of UNLV winning and Army winning big because like if Army beats Tulane big, they came in at is it 24 or 23 in the CFP top 25, but like they're more like there's a chance, not a good chance, but a chance that that could make some noise there.
Also, the fact that Army still's got to play Navy, so they have played three games in a row.
Yeah,
So like
tough.
Army is 24 and then UNLV is 20. So I guess Army's a little bit more alive than you would think. I think their FPI, I looked at, I think they're at like 7%. Army has a halfway. It's behind Miami. Is like
Yeah.
also in this exercise, Miami's got no shot to make it in, dude. Miami has
No,
no
they're
chance.
like you hardly even consider them. Like I that's what I was trying to say like when we were talking about the rankings. Like it just doesn't make sense. I will say one point of this exercise, which I think you spoke to by having SMU at 11. I think the big key for SMU, if you're going to lose the ACC Championship game, you have to keep it within a possession. I think if
Yeah.
it is a close loss, then your argument is pretty infallible over Alabama. But I think that if you get blown out by Clemson, then you're done. You're cooked. Alabama is going to get in over you as the loser.
When I was watching the playoff ranking show, I have some thoughts about the guys on the desk there. First off, Reese Davis was just like really putting Ward Manuel in a really difficult spot. I didn't appreciate
Yeah.
that. It's like, what's he doing? It's like he's got to answer an impossible question based on like a face of a committee where they're just doing it blind. It's like
Yeah.
it was like an inquisition. It's like chill out, dude. He's like, are you gonna put Alabama in or not? That's my moment. I care.
Just tell me what you're doing with Alabama.
Also, the fact he's an AP voter too. It's like it's a really It's I think that's an even bigger issue than Tom Brady calling games and being a minority owner of the Raiders, to be honest with you.
He's a little bit better at his job than Tom Brady, but neither here nor there.
That's fine. I mean, would you rather have? I mean, it's I still enjoy Tom Brady more than Peyton Manning sucking the air out of every conversation.
Yeah, one thing I did not realize that was going to happen with the Manning cast is I like Eli way more than Peyton on that broadcast.
Yeah, it was like the cool ones went to Ole Miss, and the nerd with the giant head went to Tennessee, and that's all you need to know. But I
You
guess the
know
other
how
thing is
like
like
you know how like basketball museums will have like the like Shaq handprint and you like put your hand in there? The Tennessee Football Museum needs to have Peyton Manning's helmet and see how big your head looks. Yeah.
I haven't seen the show, but my buddy Steve was telling me this last night. So the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Have you ever watched that show?
I watched like the first season, didn't carry through with it.
That's fine. I've watched a second of it. I know it's like, Aaron from The Office. I
Hmm.
think it's Ellie Kemper's her name, if I know that I think about it. But it's somehow they keep rebooting Eli Manning in the show. They keep cloning him, but he's dumber every time. So it's like Toyoga. No, Toyota.
Toyoga. He
So I think it's
basically
like
becomes Antonio by the end of it.
I think it's like the premise is like he died like 10 years ago and they replaced him like he's Paul McCartney or Avril Lavigne. And it's just the same thing.
Oh my God.
But yeah, but as I'm sitting there watching the playoff rankings and everything like that, it seemed like Greg McElroy and I think it was Booger McFarland that was on the set that week. Like they seemed
Yeah.
pretty comfortable and confident with where SMU is at. Like they didn't seem like, oh my God, SMU's not going to get in. I think that they were like, no, I think they're in a good spot. And I think that really spoke well with me and it certainly impacted the playoff ranking show for me.
No, for sure. And I think like you can only weigh but so much into what these analysts say, especially because they're not on the committee. But I do think like McElroy's opinion in that absolutely matters as like a dude who not afraid of showing his SEC and Alabama bias. Like he's never been afraid of that, and I respect him for it, frankly. But like I do think that the fact that he thinks SMU is in a good position when the team that they're ostensibly battling with for that last spot, if they were to lose, would be Alabama. I think that that speaks well for SMU.
I will say ESPN always puts the right people up there. The guys that they have up there of like McElroy, McFarland, Joey Galloway, Jesse Palmer back in the day, like they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
They're ready. Like Kirk Herbstreit's just not on it very much anymore. He's just texting Galloway the entire time. Like, well, this is what's going. My phone will not stop vibrating.
Oh God, dude. I think being in a group chat with Kirk Herbstreit might be like nightmarish. And not like I love Kirk. I think Kirk's a good dude, but like he seems like the dude who just doesn't shut up in the group chat. Like you can't get a word in edgewise.
AJ Hawk just like throws his phone into the lake on his Columbus compound.
Yes, exactly.
Also, with the Fox sort of thing, Matt Leinert's got he's a big FaceTime guy. Apparently,
Oh
that's
God.
very he's a big. I'm FaceTiming you now. It's a very alpha male of starting quarterback vibes.
Yeah, I mean, like if I looked like Matt Leinart, I'd probably FaceTime people too.
He keeps FaceTiming Rhett Lashley. You're taking care of Coles. I'm just eating some more shrimp cocktail, man. And whenever Rhett Lashley has shrimp cocktail, he always has four shrimps in the cocktail. So four for four. I'll give you some definitely maybe here. This is going to be fun. I'll probably do some less under the better after the championship once everything's seated. Probably do
Yeah.
that for the playoff too. We're learning things, but we haven't done definitely maybe in a while. Let's just pick the definitely maybe contenders for the sleeveys in each Power Four
Mhm.
league. Let's start with the ACC. Who is definitely maybe might be good.
I think this one was actually the easiest one for me. I went with Pitt, and like it was a team that we didn't really know what to expect. They came out firing, and like I know the season did not end well. Like Pitt ended up finishing 7-5, but like that was an attrition thing. Like they didn't have depth, and they started getting banged up, particularly on the offensive line. Holstein went out. You had to turn to Yarnell. Yarnell played well considering the offensive line he was having to play behind, but like it was an attrition thing. But I think like the high end of a healthy Pitt, I don't think we saw that coming. And the fact that they were able to put together a 7-5 season with the injuries that came around at the end of the year, like if you had told us like going into the year that they were going to be as banged up as they were by season's end, I think we would have probably put them at like 4-8 or 5-7, not 7-5. So like big shouts to our boy Pat Narduzzi.
He's definitely not in the hot seat. I considered Pitt, but I think SMU is too good. Like they're good.
Yeah.
So my actual pick is Syracuse.
Okay. And I like that too.
I think you could also probably could have considered Duke as well. It's the same sort of thing
Hmm.
where it's like quarterback play is good, the head coach believes in them, new head coach. A lot of fun offenses here, and I think Duke and Syracuse are going to be contenders for the ACC next year. They're both going to be pretty good.
Yeah. One interesting Syracuse nugget that I saw on signing day was Connor Wegman of Texas A&M fame entered the portal, and Syracuse was one of the schools already interested in Connor Wegman. And after what we just saw from Kyle McCord, color
Maybe
me
he's right.
intrigued. Color me
Yeah,
intrigued.
yeah. Maybe McCord's turning pro potentially.
I think it's possible. He might be out of eligibility if I'm not mistaken. Like it's close.
It's like Milrow and Beck still have eligibility if they want it
Yeah.
because I think it's like if you have 5 games, if you play 5 games, you burn a red trade, and they played 4.
Mhm.
So yeah, Beck could technically come back for a super duper senior season.
There we go. Yeah, keep the Snapchat rolling.
Keep the Snapchat rolling. Keep Stet. I learned from the best Stetson Bennett. Let's do it.
That's right, 100%. It's the Georgia quarterback legacy.
Yeah, no, it's great. So the Big Ten. Who was your candidate for the Big Ten?
Big Ten and went Minnesota. Really, I was really impressed with what PJ Fleck did this season because we were pretty down on the PJ Fleck tenure coming into the season, and I think the thing that really stood out to me is this Minnesota team got better and better as the season went on. Like at the end of the year, when they pushed Penn State to the edge, when they're comfortably in a bowl game at 7-5. But I think the fact that this team brought in a new quarterback, someone who really didn't fit what we've seen from PJ Fleck's teams previously with Max Brosmer, a dude who's mobile but also like developing as a passer. We normally have seen PJ Fleck kind of go for the safe pocket passer, the Tanner Morgan types at Minnesota. And so seeing him like change his stripes a little bit and eventually find success with that and improve this team, I I'm higher coming out of the season on Minnesota than I was going in by a lot.
That's a great one. Obviously, Indiana's too good to be in here,
Yeah.
so I went Illinois. That's who I went
Okay.
with.
I like it.
I Brett Bielema is a really good coach,
Yeah, he is.
and if somebody makes a mistake and fires somebody, I mean, if James Franklin's out, I'd probably hire him. I feel he could be a candidate at any of the big schools in the Big Ten. Like if Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State had a vacancy, I'd look really hard at Brett Bielema and bring Brixley to Ann Arbor.
Got to get Brixley to Ann Arbor. But no, when I was actually looking at the Big Ten, one of the thoughts that occurred to me was it's kind of strange that outside of Dan Lanning, who I think we both agree is a phenomenal head coach based on what he's done thus far at Oregon, but outside of that, the best coaches in the Big Ten are not in the top tier of the Big Ten. Like Ryan Day, I wouldn't consider one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. James Franklin, same boat. Sharon Moore, still unproven to this point. But then you get down to Burt Bielema. You get down to Kurt Signetti. You get down to
Greg Schiano,
PJ
Greg
Fleck.
Schiano. Yeah, yeah.
PJ Fleck, Greg Schiano. Like that middle tier is where I think the best coaches in the conference are, which is a very
Mhm.
interesting thing to think about.
And then you get down to the bottom with like Lincoln Riley
Yeah, then
and
Lincoln Riley is also in the conference.
Mike Loxley. He also has a job still. That's wild.
Somehow.
Turtles hibernate, right?
Turtles also live for like 50 years.
Honestly, when we do it takes two in this offseason, like that's one of the things I think we're going to debate. Do turtles hibernate?
Turtles hibernate.
It's like, is oatmeal food? Do turtles hibernate? Why is February spelled like that?
February and Wednesday. Why?
If it's a Wednesday in February, that's just awful.
I'm taking off because I'm not writing either of those words.
And it's a leap year too, so that's even worse.
February 29th, Wednesday.
29 is a prime number, right? Isn't it? It has to be.
I think so.
I swear we're living in a simulation. Every time I say something or hear something, like I'll see it like because I'm like listening and consuming college football content, so it's all here. I said 29. I looked up, I look over there at my morning jacket poster, and it says Saturday, June 29th. So I literally looked up and it just said 29. I'm like, oh, just shit me.
20. Have you ever honestly an awful movie, but if you want to check it out, numerology. Have you ever seen the number 23 Jim Carrey like horror movie?
Or I've seen something like 28 Days Later. I've seen that movie. Yeah, I've seen that.
Dude, it's like it's the start of it is what you're describing right now, just seeing the number everywhere.
It's the same sort of thing. You probably see your same type of car. You probably see like the Prius everywhere. You're like, okay, I see this all the time. And
Oh,
saw
100%.
a red Prius last night covered in cocaine, but that was Dr. Alan Gamble's car, America.
America.
I told
Dirty Mike and the boys, their
yeah,
second home.
I was just thinking about Dirty Mike and the boys, and I told Steven like every time I see that Dirty Mike's Rex Ryan, and it's you can't change it, dude. Also, David Ershon is very much the about the guy who had a really good day on November 5th, and we'll just leave it at that. It's the same
Yep,
person.
100%. Yep.
And moving on to another thing that happened, the Big 12. Let's go there. So this is a very hard one for me. Where'd you end up going with definitely maybe for that?
Yeah, this was definitely hard because like some of these teams definitely maybe might be good. Some of them definitely maybe might be pretty bad. So like I didn't know where to go. I landed on Texas Tech just because I think that's the team that surprised me the most with their upside. I didn't trust Texas Tech at very many points of the season, but got to 7-5, got to a bowl game, and like I didn't think that they had the upside to pull off some of the wins they did, to push some of the teams that they did. So like I wasn't. Joe McGuire earned a little bit of my respect beyond his ability to, shake babies and kiss hands.
Also, on that note, he lost his OC. Zach Kitley is going to be taking over at FAU. Yeah, I'm going to give you a coaching update. So Zach Kitley is going from. I wrote this down because we probably did this. Texas Tech OC is taking over at Florida Atlantic. Sorry, Charlie Weiss Jr. Butler's head coach Mike Yurimovich is taking over at Ball State for Mike
Mhm.
New. So just a lot of Mikes.
A lot of mics, just mics.
Rutgers defensive coordinator Joe Harasimiak. There you go. He's going to UMass. So Neil Brown's in shambles.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And USC associate head coach and linebackers coach Matt Entz is taking over at Fresno State. I thought Tim Skipper was going to be given an opportunity to win that job. I guess not. Matt Entz was the head coach at North Dakota State prior to this past year.
Yeah. So don't I of those hires that I like the Ents hire the most for sure.
I like Harasimiak a little bit, but Entz is cool too. But also, like Matt Entz was the head coach when Trey Lance, yeah,
Yeah.
that
I mean,
one
hey,
that
look, Trey Lance is Trey Lance in the NFL, but North Dakota State won a lot of football games. So,
they
you know.
sure did, they sure did with lots of stuff happening there. But my Big 12 candidate, I settled on Colorado. That's where I ended up going.
Okay.
Arizona State's too good. I kind of feel that like Colorado is like a lesser version of South Carolina. Is kind of what I came to. Maybe a little bit more the better PR team.
Yeah.
They play very similarly. They both got an incredibly outspoken head coach. Imagine like if Mike and the Mad Dog gets a Shannon Prime and they just yell at each other the whole time.
Just the volume would have to be on like three for my eardrums to not burst.
God, it's more pump up the volume than a Christian Slater, and this is
Yeah,
false start.
100%, dude. God.
Yeah. I will say though, getting Warren Sapp coaching up the defensive line, I think Deion Sanders is never going to stay at Colorado. I think the coaches are having fun. They have a lot of respect for each other, like Pat Sherman, all them. That's going to be, and I don't even know they got what Juju Lewis I think coming in now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And they moved pretty heftily up the recruiting rankings. I believe like coming into last week, they were like outside the top 50. And if I'm not mistaken, they have a top 30 class right now. So, Dion is doing things.
yes, I always forget his name. So yes, Rick George, the AD, I think he and Deion get along pretty good. So like, why leave?
No, yeah. I mean, the fact that he is recruiting high school to the level he is right now tells me that he's not planning on going anywhere.
for sure. I 100% agree there. And the SEC, let's go with who's definitely maybe might be good there.
Oh, dude, it's Florida, man. Florida
Yeah,
definitely maybe might be good. Like 7-5 with the schedule they had to play, like that's a hell of an effort from Billy Napier. And I think more importantly, like I think you saw it on National Signing Day. People want to come play with DJ Lagway. That kid is amazing and it's going to be a problem in this league as Florida starts to fill out the rest of the roster. But like Florida handled the adversity that we forecasted since August. Like they handled it better than we expected. And like that's a real testament to Billy Napier and to like the players on that team.
I considered Florida. Also, they're going to beat Georgia next year. I've kind of accepted that. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay. My candidate for the SEC and probably my candidate for when we do the sleeveys, that's South Carolina. South Carolina's definitely made might be good.
Yeah.
That Lenora Sellers, it's like I'm watching Cam Newton. The guy I grew up probably rooting for Cam Newton in Florence, South Carolina, watching Panthers games. Nobody recruited him out of high school. He had like five offers. Shane Beamer believed in him. I wrote something about where he could potentially transfer to. Come on down to Athens and change the game, bud. But
100%, dude. That'd
uh,
be sick.
dude, that piss Shane Beamer off so much. I can imagine if they're like a golf scramble at Lake Oconee, just getting slugged in the face by like Shane Beamer's like, you took my effing quarterback. He's like, sorry, not sorry. We're just chopping.
Dogs on top.
Dogs on top. We're chopping wood. Got to keep chopping.
Keep them
And
chopping, boys.
keep chopping, boys. And I don't know if he knows how to chop wood, but he knows how to do something. Let's go on to the Antonio Banderas Bowl of the week. Antonio wants to hang out with Yeri Jones and Kenny D and Big D for the Big 12 title with Arizona State, Iowa State. So the last time we checked in with him was at Cornucopia. We talked about presenting Brian Ferentz on a leash to Iowa.
Mhm.
They have matching leashes, instead of getting matching back tats like Chester and Jesse from Dude, Where's My Car? They've got that. But Antonio really, he just wants to hang out with Jerry Jones, and that's really, and also see his boy Kenny D because they can communicate a lot better. And we were Kenny D again. We went to Omer Hickam with him, and he's having a great year with his bionic legs and
Yeah, no,
pelvis.
he Antonio is fluent in mind language, and Kennedy obviously speaks that from his time at Homer Hickam. So like they get along quite well, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how Antonio tries to split his time between Yeri and Kenny D. I can assure you though, Matt Campbell will not be involved. Matt Campbell wants nothing to do with Antonio.
No, no, Matt Campbell is like, I'm not hanging out with this creepy blow up doll. This is reminding me too much of Mount Union, and I don't want to go back.
I've been to Mount Union and I'm done. I did my time. We're done here.
He's like, it reminds me of something stupid I saw Jason Candle and Nick Sirianni did. I don't want no part of this.
We're always here for Jason Candle slander. Guess who's not playing in conference championship weekend? Jason Candle. Wonder why.
Guess who needs to win a bowl game to probably keep his job? Jason Candle.
Yeah, got an extension and then proceeded to go like 1-3 over his final four games. Sweet.
Also, I saw this TCU's AD. Forgot what his name was. He's the guy who's going to be replacing Danny Tanner at South Carolina. So that's
South
good for.
Carolina.
Yeah, maybe they can pay Lenore Sellers more than Nico Iamaleava to stay. But Antonio he likes the star and he wants to go sunbathe on the star. Because with the sun coming in at the third quarter,
Yep.
he likes that. And I'm like, you're gonna melt, dude. You're just a blow up doll. But then it's gonna be Big 12 blow up doll. He thinks there's gonna be 12 blow up dolls there. He wants to see his brothers.
I mean, he legitimately, like, I'm worried that he thinks he is the trophy for the Big 12 championship, not the WWE
Yes.
championship belt. He thinks that he's the trophy. And I'm like, first off, if Iowa State wins this game, Matt Campbell's not picking up a blow up bill. I can assure you of that. Kenny D, we probably want to avoid like a PR or a HR scandal if he gets a blow up dog because Kenny D might have some fun.
Just slapping asses. Good game.
100%. Good game. Good game. Good game.
The other thing was I told Antonio we're not saying bulldog anymore, and he's like bulldog, and I'm like, you can use something else. I've been working on him saying the word scataboo, and it just comes out as Scooby-Doo.
Scooby Doo.
That's yes, Scooby-Doo. That's that. He's Scooby-Doo. That's what he wants to do. He wants to show Scooby-Doo his playbook, which is just just a,
It's in
spell.
crayon for sure.
The crayon color of the week this week is brown. It's a shade of brown, and this is a crayon.
You know what? You know what has brown on it? Bulldog.
Bulldog, bro.
Bulldog.
Bulldog. So yeah, Antonio's excited. He's got his crayons. He wants to hang out with Scooby Doo and Kenny D. I did tell him though, like I think you mentioned this too. It's like if Iowa State wins, like Antonio's gonna be disrespected and ignored, and he hates that more than anything in the world.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like He's also trying. Has he mentioned to you that he wants to stay for Monday Night Football in Jerry World? Because he's mentioned that to me too, and I'm like, Antonio, I gotta tell you, the last thing I want to do is try to watch this Cowboys defense defend Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
He does like Joe Burrow. He's like um goat.
Goat.
Uh he wants to eat beignets with goat.
Hey, beignets, baby. Beyny.
How does Antonio spell beignet? Bulldog, bulldog.
Bulldog, that bulldog does still get you.
Yes, Antonio's had an absolute blast this year. We are going to be doing some uh bowling with Antonio. So we'll do the same thing like Mine Wearing Jackets one big holiday during bowl season. We'll pick like essentially if there's a game, if there's a bowl game going on, we're going there and we're going to talk about it. And it's going to be we're going to use a Limp Bizkit song to basically bring it back home. So like
Have to.
this game is very much the air raid vehicle. And I know like six Limp Bizkit songs, so this is going to be wild.
Yeah, we're gonna get deep into the discography, deeper than we ever have before.
It's going to be more festive than Westmoreland out there. It is regalia. The way that guy dresses is unbelievable. I think I saw something like they were playing like Lollapalooza in Santiago, Chile, or something like that.
Yeah.
And Fred Durst is like over there in like a 1991 like neon jumpsuit, and Westmoreland's dressed up there like he's like a deranged thing from like Clockwork Orange combined with like a beefeater outside of Buckingham Palace. It's
Look, man,
unbelievable.
dude lives in absolutely his own world, like more so than anyone I've ever seen.
It's just Jacksonville, dude. That's all you need to know,
I
man.
mean, fair, it is just Jacksonville.
So with the nine games we've got here, we're gonna make a pick for each of them. So we're gonna do Antonio, and then we're gonna do some JLN with two encores because y'all went another
Mhm.
single. So who do you have winning the Big 12 championship?
I've got Arizona State. I think that the momentum is definitely on their side. The other thing that researching these games that I discovered, Iowa State played the weakest schedule in the Big 12, and probably a good reason why they're 10-2 and in this game. I think that Iowa State's going to be able to score a little bit. I think Arizona State's pass defense is going to allow some explosive plays, but I think other than that, it's going to be a little disjointed for Iowa State. This Arizona State run defense is quite good. This Iowa State run defense is not quite good. 84th in the country in defensive success rate against the run. I think we see a heavy dose of Scatterby. I think we see a heavy dose of Sam Levitt running the football. And I just think Arizona State controls the game because I think Matt Campbell's a great coach, but I think Kenny D is a better schematic mind. And I think in one game for the conference title, that's what I'm going to lean on.
I'm going Arizona State as well, not just for my relationship, but I also kind of feel the fact that like, well, mostly Sam Levitt and Scooby Doo, and that's part of it as well. But
Yeah.
I think also Iowa State's not won a conference championship since they've had television, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah. Big hurdle to clear.
Big hurdle to clear, When you paid Paradise to put up a parking lot, you get some Counting Crows here. Let's move on to JLN with some Counting Crows. Probably a top five band for you all time in retrospect is
Oh yeah. Love me some Counting Crows, man.
love me some Counting Crows. So we have six songs that we have listed here, and then we each pick two songs that we don't know about for the other games. So let's start with round here. Who you got for round here?
Round here, we got Georgia and Texas. And for this line alone, and it made me think of Steve Sarkisian. And she knows she's more than just a little misunderstood. She has trouble acting normal when she's nervous. And we know Steve Sarkisian in big games tends to get a little high strung. Uh, but I'm going Texas. I'm sorry, Bueller. I'm
That's
going
fine.
Texas to win the rematch. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of things broke Georgia's way. And I think Texas in that first meeting, and I think that Texas is just playing a better, higher floor brand of football than what we saw at that point. So, and the other thing, like when you get two teams of this caliber in a rematch, I'm probably going to take the team that lost most of the time in the rematch.
I've got that game coming up here a little bit. I kind of gone back and forth on who I'm going to pick for that game, so I'll probably do it on the fly and we'll see what goes there. But
Hell
for
yeah.
around here, I've got the ACC Championship with SMU versus Clemson because around here we always stand up straight, and the whole very, very, very late thing, that's SMU joining the ACC, and that's Clemson getting into the transfer portal. So
Love it. Love it.
give me the ponies. SMU is going to win big.
Love it.
And speaking of you can't count on me, who do you got for that game?
I think we might have the same one for this one because I have Penn State, Oregon. You know, you can't count on James Franklin in a big game. We've seen this 100 times, bro. Like, I just, I if I look X's and O's matchup wise, I can talk myself into Penn State. But then I look on the sideline and I see James Franklin there, and I can't talk myself into it anymore. Oregon's winning this game, man. It's like I'm sorry.
I do not have that game for Oregon. That's the American Championship for me with two-in Army because you can't count on the Greenies or the Black Knights making the playoff, even though I said
Fair.
that they could. And just because to spite my face, give me the Black Knights where they have a potential to do it. And also, I think John Summerall is distracted. I saw something there. AD David Harris is like, trust me, we're trying to keep him here. It's like it's the Winky Witch thing.
We're trying to keep him here. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful, brother.
No, he might be leaving in a big yellow taxi, and it's gonna take John Summerall away. Who do you got for that game?
Yeah, if it ain't paradise, put up a parking lot in Detroit, Michigan, because we're going to the MAC championship, baby. That's Ohio, Miami, Ohio. For my money, and I don't mean this, I promise I don't mean this as more Jason Candle slander. These are the two best coaches in the MAC. Tim Albin and Chuck Martin are phenomenal coaches. The fact that Tim Albin has this Ohio team in the MAC championship game speaks to what a damn good coach he is. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year for Ohio. You lost Curtis Rourke in the transfer portal. You lost a bunch to the NFL or just graduation. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and you're in the MAC championship. Unfortunately, I think this is when that buck stops because Miami, Ohio is just a better football team, and there's no real coaching advantage. I just think Miami, Ohio is a better team.
This is exactly. I have this song for. I have the Mac for the big yellow taxi for the same reason. They
Yes,
they paved paradise, Detroit, Michigan, to put up a parking lot, Ford Field, quite
that's
literally.
right.
And I'm right there with you in terms of like Chuck Martin and Tim Albin being fantastic coaches, and just because I'm really loving working with Winston Wilcox. He's been so good on the staff. He's been kicking so much tail. Give me his alma mater. Give me Ohio U in this game.
Go with the Bob Kitties. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's a Jones on the Bob Kitties, but let's go with Mr. Jones. Who do you got for that game?
I have Tulane Army. This is the AAC for me. Looking at it, kind of the same reason you had them for you can't count on me, like you can't count on me to make playoff. Mr. Jones, a song about wanting to be somebody. They want to be somebody. They want to be in the playoff. Don't really see it happening, but they want to be somebody. I'm going with Army as well. I truly think John Summerall is focused on his next job at this point. Like I think that I would not be surprised if Sunday, while we're getting ready for the final college football playoff rankings reveal, we also get news that John Summerall has been hired somewhere.
I feel that. This is the game I have for Georgia and Texas because Kirby and Stark stare at the beautiful women and and they look at you like there's got to be somebody for me. I think Steve Sarkisian wants to be Bob Dylan and Kirby Smart wants to be something a little more funkier. I think one of them knows how to play the four chords for this song, and like they rub it in everybody's face. It's just the key is see it. This isn't that hard, but it's as simple as dividing up a scheme there at Georgia, Texas. We just have more good players. Unfortunately, I'm gonna go with Texas here. It's an emo hedge. I feel Texas. I don't know. I feel like the game that Georgia played versus Georgia Tech was cathartic. Yes, they've got an extra day off and everything like that, but Georgia does not do good playing in Atlanta in the first part of December, and I'm going to be a few
Yeah.
miles away from that. I live a few miles away from that, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to go with Texas here, and I want to see Georgia win, obviously, but just because Georgia they'll find a way to knock Georgia out of the playoff if they lost, even though I don't think it's possible.
No, I don't think so either.
Because they're hanging around. Who you got for hanging around?
This is where I have the CUSA championship game, Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State,
Yeah.
because this game is just hanging around, bro. Like when I was filling out these just like Novocaine games and doing our picks, I was like, I'm forgetting a game. What game am I forgetting? And it was the CUSA game because they're just hanging around. This game means literally nothing. More importantly, they're just hanging around because they just played last week. These two teams are rematching that they played last week. Western Kentucky won that game 19-17. We're going the flip side on this one. Jacksonville State's getting the rematch. I think Jacksonville State with Rich Rod. I think they make the adjustments and get it done here. I don't trust Western Kentucky.
We've been on the same page here. That's what I've got. I've got the CUSA championship for hanging around too. I feel that like, again, it's just hanging around, but I also kind of feel that Tyson Hilton and Rich Rod are just hanging around looking for probably better jobs. And on that note, I think that Tyson Hilton's going to be the next head coach at Purdue.
Yeah.
and that's going to be in favor of a guy who may not get another job. Then Rich Rod, so give me the Gamecocks.
Okay, let's do it.
And a long December. This is the last one we had beforehand, before we had the double encore. So what game do you have for a long December?
It's going to be a long December in Boise, Idaho, because UNLV is going to end Boise State's run. UNLV is winning the Mountain West Championship game. Look, I said it earlier. Ashton Genty's fantastic. I have no qualms with Ashton Genty. I have a lot of qualms with a lot of the rest of this Boise State team, especially the way they've been playing over the past month and a half. I just think that this UNLV team, while there is a chance that in the first game that these two teams played that UNLV gave them their only best shot and it wasn't good enough, I think if you give that same shot again, this Boise State team's playing worse than they were at this point, and that might be enough to push UNLV through. So it's going to be a long December when Boise State's not in the college football playoff.
I've got that game as one of my encores because we're
Okay.
running out of real estate here. But a long December for me, that would be the Big Ten championship between Oregon and Penn State. Is there a reason to believe this year will be better than the last? Is James Franklin going to beat a team that matters? Is Dan Lanning going to lead Oregon to its first national title ever? I don't think Oregon's ever won one.
If they
So
have, it's around World War II, maybe just after.
yeah, and give me the Ducks because James Franklin doesn't beat teams. He's an underdog too.
Correct.
Okay, your first encore song. What song is that? What game is that?
Oh, you already know it's Mrs. Potter's Lullaby for the ACC Championship game. For this line alone, I am an idiot walking a tightrope of fortune and fame. Shouts to Dabo Sweeney, an idiot
Yeah.
walking a tightrope of fortune and fame. Pony up. SMU is going to expose Clemson for being fraudulent. Look, man, I respect Clemson. I respect a lot of what Clemson has done under Dabo. They are not that team this year. Every time they've had a big game, they've lost. They played six bowl eligible teams this year. They are 3-3 in those games. Those wins came against teams that barely got bowl eligible. Two 6-6 teams and 7-5 Pitt when Pitt, as we've already mentioned, was breaking down. SMU has handled their business consistently. I do think like it may not be a wide margin, but I think Clemson looks pretty hapless in this game because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. I don't think that the offense is going like when you get Cade Klubnik in third and long, I don't trust him at all, especially against a well-coached defense. SMU running away, man.
Yeah, I mean, that was around here for me. I'm kind of right there. When Cade Klubnik throws up on his shirt some orange Gatorade, it still looks orange, on his shirt. But if it's a white shirt, it just looks like an orange shirt now. This is a
It's
false start. So my first encore is accidentally in love, and that's the Mountain West Championship game because we're accidentally in love with this conference because pretty much the winner of this game is going to be making the playoff right now. I'm on the other side of it with you. I'm going to go with Boise State here. Also, I think the what Adam Duritz as like the bunny rabbit in there. Like, who
oh
do you
yeah.
think who do you think would be the most amused about it of anybody in this game? And why is it not Dirk Cutter? And why is it not Barry Odom? And it might be Maddox Madsen's about this.
Oh, Maddox Matson watches that video on repeat. There's no question, man. It's definitely not Dirk Cutter. I can assure you of
What the hell is this?
that.
He pulls out a 12 gauge and shoots his TV, watches the music video, thinking it's a rabbit.
He turns into Elmer Fudd.
What the fun?
What the fun, man.
All right, and what's your last? I think we have the same last game, so that would be the Sun Belt Championship, right? So what's
Yeah.
your second encore for that?
So this is my accidentally in love. We're playing it twice in the encore because that song bangs, first of all. But yes, it is the Sun Belt Championship game, Marshall, Louisiana. Dude, I'm accidentally in love with this game. Like, I think that this game is actually one of the ones I'm most excited for, one of the ones I have the least amount of idea of what's going to happen for it. The Sun Belt's not as good as it has been in recent years, but I think that makes the conference championship game more fun because there's not a JMU, there's not a surging App State team, there's not a team where I'm just for sure that they're going to win it. I'm going with Marshall as the underdog to win this, though. One of the things with Louisiana, they've been the best offensive team in the Sun Belt this season. They also haven't played many of the best defenses in the Sun Belt. Marshall being the best defense in the Sun Belt this season. I think Marshall's able to really slow down this offense. And I actually made this comparison earlier. I see this game looking very similar to Georgia Tech Miami, where Georgia Tech was able to just basically run the ball consistently, keep like run like 11 to 15 play drives and get Miami out of rhythm. I think they're able to do that to Louisiana.
Okay, so yeah, obviously I have this game, but I've already done Accidentally in Love. So what song am I gonna do? I'm gonna do Peyton Manning's favorite song, Omaha. Let's go with that.
Omaha, let's go.
So like, somewhere in the middle of America, I guess the Sun Belt, it's the heart that matters more in the Sun Belt. I mean, they're not playing for much more than heart, maybe being ranked in the top 25. Marshall's really coming on. They needed overtime, I think, to edge out Georgia Southern for the last spot in here. And also, Marshall is the name of Peyton Manning's son. And I don't like Peyton Manning or Tennessee or anything to do with that. So give me the Raging Cajuns, man.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Fair enough. This was episode 132 of False Start. Yes. Wow, I almost screwed that up.
Dude, whenever we're doing editing for these, I forget the number every single time. So you're fine.
Yeah, this is episode 132 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB False Start. Do better than one of the bots because we've lost a lot of followers because there's a lot of election bots up there. I tell you that much.
Yeah, the election bots are going crazy.
And we're going crazy with oh my gosh. I never know where the hand's gonna come from. But yes, please give us a 5-star review on Apple. Got some more subscribers there. We're halfway to 50. We're gonna have a 50 burger. We'll probably have a Steve Spurrier themed episode when we get to 50.
Hell, I'll eat a burger at 8 a.m. I don't care.
I
Let's
don't
go.
care. You don't have like White Castle or Crystal out there. You have anything that has sliders? No, it's New Mexico.
Brother, my kitchen. I can make sliders in my kitchen.
That's true. They have Del Taco out in Santa Fe.
Not in Santa Fe, in Espanola. Shouts to Nathan Felder.
Yes. Nathan Fielder, the tomato voice.
That's right.
You did watch a little bit of that. Could Steven come over? No, you can't. You can watch, you can listen.
You can listen.
And you can obviously listen to the podcast too if you want to on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere that's out there. Yeah, man, we got 9 games that matter, and then we got Army Navy next week. So we're winding down here. It's getting so good, and then after this, we're gonna be doing like the sleeveys. We'll have a Christmas themed episode. We had a lot of fun doing that. We're also gonna be trying to figure out when we're gonna be coming to you semi-live with 3 yards and a cloud opponent after the playoff games.
Mhm.
Haven't figured that out yet. We're still, tryptophan's still kicking my ass, man. Unfortunately, days
No,
later.
100%. But you'll be occupied this Saturday night,
Yes.
but I'll be coming to you live after the last conference championship game concludes, which is the ACC Championship Game, SMU Clemson. Fitting that that is the last one, since that's the one that honestly holds a lot of cards and what we think is going to happen in the college football playoff.
Yes, Cody will be watching some Dabo and some Brett Lashley, and I'll be watching Matt Rogers sing for like Las Culturistas about Christmas. Also, yeah, Bo and Yang in Wicked. He's the glasses, dude.
Yes.
You got to see that if you haven't seen that yet.
I need to get on the Wicked train.
We're defying gravity on this podcast, and this is False Start.